Welcome to the summit about who you really are and the whole no self. And I have the honor of having a speaker here. Her name is Rebekah Maroon, and I'll read her biography, and it's beautiful. And so her story, she was coming from a suffering story to life itself. This loss of identification with the sense of a personal self seemed to happen over what we would call time. And Rebekah, she now talks about this non-personal energetic change and how the human animal, freed from seeking, is now free to be what it is, just like everything else is appearing. And this is what she would describe as freedom from human suffering, freedom which is based around, which is not based around pleasurable experiences, thoughts or feelings, or an avoidance of unpleasant experience and thoughts and feelings, but all encompassing unconditional freedom and love, based around the dissolving of an illusionary energetic dream of being someone. So it sounds interesting. And she wrote a book that I've read, This is Love. Oh, it's beautiful. It's her newest book. And it's very poetic and beautiful writings. And I've read it a couple of times, and you can probably keep reading it. But it really touches one's heart. And so, Rebekah, welcome.
Hi, Susan.
Yeah, and the book, This is Love, is, what is that? What does love mean? You beautifully express it. How would you speak about it?
Well, I fail completely to speak about it, really. But still, the expression of it still seems to come out. So what I would describe as love, unconditional love, is like what this is, the nature of reality. You could say is emptiness, so not a thing, not form, and yet at the same time I could describe it as love, as fullness, as everything, every seeming form. So it's not a personal love, a love that is owned, or a love that is objectified into one particular thing or one particular feeling. It's more of a unconditional love that accepts and is all things.
Okay, so it's like a love that just is just a love that just is available.
Yeah, it's everything. Everything is that. When we think about love, usually it's more of a feeling, like love as a warm, glowing feeling, or love as like an energetic feeling. But that's an aspect of love, but I wouldn't say that's unconditional love. Unconditional love is the makeup of all things. So it doesn't matter if it's warm and fuzzy or whether it's sharp and painful. It's love regardless. It's the material of everything.
Okay. Can you actually show us your book?
Yeah, sure. So my first book is this one. And then This is Love is the second book. If you can see it there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's beautiful. Yeah. And it's very red. It seems like it's very. They're both red. The book cover is.
Yeah. I was just drawn to the color red. Yes.
Yeah. So this is God, and this is love. It's what is God?
Yeah, I could say the exact same thing, really. I could say it's the exact same thing. It is love. It is not a thing, and yet all things. It's everything, and yet can't be found as a particular thing. omnipresent. It's not anything, it's everything.
So it's like it's the source of everything. And so is God and love the same? It's just different words.
Yeah, I would. Yes, it's the same. It's the same thing. Same thing. At least in my language, it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and other people sometimes call it awareness or consciousness or source or nirvana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything, nothing. Yeah, there are different terms. I use different terms as well, but yeah, the books are called it's called that. So yeah. But I feel like that the first book was more of the emptiness side, you could say, more of the absolute emptiness side. Very clean, very straight, maybe more logical, whereas the second book was more of a like a change happened. I feel a change happened where the heart opened, and so the book 2 is more about the fullness side, more about the love side of things. So it reflects that change that happened, I feel. So it's not so logical. It's not so maybe it doesn't make sense in the same way as the first book. It's more paradoxical, maybe more poetic than it is rational or logical. Yeah, it was such a joy to let that come out and move with the flow of the heart rather than the intellect. It was such a joy to express from the heart.
Yeah. And what is the heart?
Good question. What is the heart? It's love. It's just love. It's not really a heart as in an object or a thing. It's love. It's love.
And you mentioned unconditional love, right? Because often it's like love. Yeah, I can see how it's love, but it's also sometimes we're like, well, love is this and love is not that, and love is this and love is not. But it's everything, right? It's when it's unconditional, it's everything.
Yeah.
And then we also often feel like, well, love has to feel like that warm, fuzzy feeling, or it has to. But it can be a feeling of fear, or it can be a feeling of anger or frustration, or a feeling of not being enough, or can it be any feeling?
Yeah, it's everything. It's beyond limitation. It's what we are. It's what this is. It is pure emptiness, pure fullness seeming to happen. It's not rejecting anything. This moment, it's all of what it is. It's not rejecting things. So yeah, it can appear as anything. It does appear as anything.
Yeah. So when you,
and that's what. Sorry, that's what we long for when this sense of separation happens. There's a sense of losing something. When the identification with the mind, with this idea of being someone starts to play, then there's a sense of losing that love, losing God, or losing home, or losing that place of connection or wholeness. And then that's what the longing is for that love again, for that home again, that we seem to have lost. And so this waking up is a rediscovery of something that was never lost or missing.
So it's like a kind of coming back home to something you already are, but you just didn't know you were, or that you are.
yeah, it's a coming back home, but it's not really a coming back home. It's like this illusion that you are someone who's not home drops, and so therefore there is already home, there is already that completeness. It was never this story of losing something, of being someone who had lost something, drops and disappears, and therefore there is love, there is home. And it isn't a feeling or an experience that the person can have. It isn't an object or it's not a story or a feeling. It's more of a stopping of something or an ending of something that was illusory to begin with. It was never actually true that there's someone here living, someone here experiencing life happening. There is just life happening, just everything happening.
So it's like it's just life happening, and it's not that life is happening to you, or it's just happening.
Yeah, just life happening. Yeah.
So is it the way we grew up, or the mind or something saying that I am this body in the world, or it really seems like I am something, right? And I'm not just some happening. It seems like I am this body, mind. It really appears like it, and it really appears like objects over there, and I'm in a world, and it just appears like it so much, and everybody is acting like it's like that. So it's so like it's hard to believe that it's just a happening, and there's not even a person it really happens to.
Yeah.
But when because you speak about, or in your book, it's about the body, that the body is actually not the border, right? And that's what it appears to be, but there is no border from the body to the world, or it's just all one borderless happening, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of there being a border, the idea of you existing and ending with the skin of the body has been taught. It's an idea that's been taught and ingrained and believed. So to discover that actually that is just an idea and a belief, and isn't the experience, that isn't the reality of things. It is quite a shocking thing to realize that there's just life happening. There's just the wall and the chair and the hands and the legs and the hair, and there's just what's happening, and it isn't happening to someone. You want somebody behind the eyes looking at everything as separate things. That's not who you are. That's not the reality. So yeah, I can see how it can be disorientating for some people that this happens to, this change initially anyway. But yeah, because it's just been a long held idea.
Yeah, but it's a very persistent idea, though. It feels like it's almost impossible not to, be this separate person in the world. Like, how am I ever going to, like, what do you do to kind of go beyond that and realize that, wow, I'm actually not, I'm just something that's happening, and there's no person in it's just me making that up. How do you kind of realize that?
Yeah. Well, that's the mysterious thing all about it. You can't really realize. You can't really. There's no like. There's no method or path you can take with steps. A set of steps you can take to realize that. It's really mysterious how it happens, how this illusion of there actually being someone to realize that, yeah, it's just mysterious how it happens. This illusion drops, this illusion is seen through, but by no one gets to see through it, no one gets to realize it. That's been the whole dream, that there is somebody in each body that can get somewhere, realize something, journey somewhere, and become enlightened or become aware of the dream. That's part of the whole dream. So it's really mysterious how this non-happening seems to happen. It's really mysterious that no one actually wakes up, that there is a awakeness that happens, is revealed, awakeness, but not for us, not for a person. No one can look and see that awakeness. That's the illusion, is someone to see that or realize that this awakeness, this aliveness is the nature of reality. This aliveness, this looking now isn't someone's looking. It's already here, already free. But yeah, it's totally mysterious how this dropping seems to happen of the illusion. I have no idea, basically. I have no idea.
But when the dropping happens, then what does your life change, or like what happened for you, for example?
Yeah, it's really it's such a bizarre thing. So and it's still being discovered here, how to even describe this, because there's no like book you can refer to. So I'm really like still understanding what's happened here and learning to describe what's happened here. So it's fresh, it's really fresh. So what I can describe it as, what seemed to happen was there was this mental, I'll call it now a mental shift or change that happened. This just a mental shift or change, and then it seemed to then move to the heart. So there was a heart opening and a heart a heart ripping opening that happened as well. And then what's happened since the heart opening is what I can only begin to describe now as a freedom of the body. So the body seems to be going through a change. So although I'm stuttering a lot more than what I was stuttering, which may seem contradictory to saying it's becoming more free, from the experience here, the body feels much more free than when it wasn't stuttering so much or trying to mask or hide its stuttering. Now it feels freer, like it's freeing up lots of patterns, unconscious patterns, maybe traumas, just aspects of the instrument that's been maybe suppressed or caught up in separation. So it seems to be a bodily change that's happening. So I would describe it as that, I suppose, but all of that isn't really what I'm speaking about now. What I'm talking about in terms of freedom is this waking up to what I am, or what this is, beyond Rebekah, beyond the instrument. It's a freedom beyond the conditioned human. So regardless of how the human is, the conditioning it's been through, the trauma it's been through, its family situation, what it has, what it doesn't have, there's a freedom beyond all of that. And that is what I would call freedom.
Yeah. But you're still you're still the human doing the human thing in the world, and it's like in that way the appearances are still the same, or is that correct?
Yeah, form still is form, seems to be still form. They're still functioning. They're still taking care of the body, taking care of the children, shopping. They're still functioning. They're still thinking. There's still feelings, interactions, difficulties. There's still life happening. Yeah, there's still life happening. This isn't something beyond being human. But there's a freedom that seemingly wasn't there before. There was a freedom of emptiness that wasn't, when there was this sense of I am that human, I am this Rebekah, then there was a contraction and a seeking to find the end of something, trying to find the end of suffering. And it felt like to find the end of my problems meant the end of suffering. And that wasn't the way it is. Like, freedom and the end of suffering is in this moment. It's right here, right now. And it has nothing to do with Rebekah's life story or where she's heading or not heading or her traumas. It's something beyond Rebekah that wasn't there, but Rebekah was so loud, or Rebekah was so much on the screen, let's say, that the screen wasn't, it's hard to even talk about. The screen was always there, but Rebekah was filling the screen. And there wasn't, like, the screen was full of Rebekah, it seemed, seeking to find the screen. And the screen was always there, always free. Always free.
So it's
a, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So it's a seeming switch over from being the Rebekah on the screen. There's a switch over or a disattachment to that character on the screen, and there's screen, and the character appears on the screen, flowing, doing its thing, but the screen is now the main event, is the screen, and Rebekah's just propping up here and there. Maybe that's a better way of explaining it.
Yeah, so it's almost like you're more expanded, or you're more like not just Rebekah, but the whole world. Or does it feel like that? Like, do you feel more expanded and less Rebekah in a solid body, and more expanded?
Yeah, more expanded. It's not limited. It's not limited to form. It's free, totally free. Yeah.
There is in your book, there is a place, love your neighbor as yourself. We have all heard that one, right? And yeah, it makes sense. I'll love my neighbor as myself. Yeah, but maybe we don't really get exactly what that is. And you write here, but first you have to know yourself. And if you do, you will immediately you'll know your neighbor as yourself, right? Because you are, when you know yourself, you also know that's your neighbor.
Yeah.
Also that. And when you feel this emptiness or this, it's almost like this unconditional love. Then when you know you are that, then your neighbor is that, and the whole world is that, and somehow you cannot help but not love everyone else or everything in the world, because it's you. I mean, even though there is no you, right? It's the. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. I just felt to say that we can imagine what that looks like. So we can imagine that being loving everybody as you see them, and you hug everybody and you're loving to everybody. But that isn't the experience here at all. It's not, Rebekah is just Rebekah. It's not like I'm loving every single person that I meet and I'm accepting of their behaviors and their mentality. And that's kind of a freedom thing. Like, we imagine to be spiritual, you need to be this loving person. So what I guess I was referring to in saying knowing who you are to then love your neighbor was more of like a knowing who you are intimately, so intimately. It's such an intimate, revealing. So externally, the behavior is still the same, you know, hello neighbor, hello, but it's an intimate knowing of who you are, who the neighbor therefore is. So it's like seeing who's looking and who's speaking and who's breathing and who's moving within this form, let's say, within this form. Then there can't be another out there. There can't be another out there. Everything's appearing here. So the thoughts and the feelings and the perceptions and the judgments. So therefore there isn't a neighbor. There can't be a neighbor or someone else. So the world becomes you. Everything becomes you. But not as an external behavior. So it's just the same on one level, but an intimate knowing happens.
Yeah. But
so we tend to look for it. We look for it as a particular behavior, but it's not found in any of that. So we try to behave spiritual, we try to behave loving as a human, and we can't. We can't. We are as we are, with our faults, with our conditioning, with our flaws. It's a loving beyond all of that stuff.
So can we just be who we are? Is that kind of the best way to live life, or is that maybe then?
Yeah, I mean, maybe in a way of saying it in language, yes, be who you are, accept yourself as you are. But actually, I'm not saying that either. I mean, it's a good thing to say to someone, be who you are, you know. But actually, on a deeper level, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying something beyond that. I'm saying I'm just describing what happens when you move out of the way, where you dissolve, this sense of you collapses and dissolves. Then there is life being, life is living, life is being lived through this form. Life is moving through all forms. So who can be as they are? There's no one to be who they are. Life is already that. Being is already that.
Yeah, so it's just whatever happens in you outside, well, what seems to be outside of you, and it's just kind of what's happening. And yeah, but it's funny because all the time it's like the mind always wants to grasp onto what's happening as something that belongs to me, or or not me,
Yeah.
So it's almost
that at some point that becomes not a problem either. That's just a movement that seems to happen, and it doesn't take away from what you are as that emptiness, as that fullness.
Yeah, so that's fine too. Basically everything is fine. All those thoughts are fine too, and because that's what's happening, I guess. So that's fine.
Yeah. It's totally unconditional. It's nothing that's rejected. It's totally all it.
Yeah. sometimes it's just so hard to get when, you know, horrible things happen and things that are not justice at all, or it's sometimes it's just hard to really understand it. But maybe that's the point, the mind can't understand it. Or
no, I can't understand it at all. Can't, because it's already happening. So when the pain is there, then there's just immense pain. That's love appearing as pain. It's already happening. It's already there. It doesn't need the mind to understand the pain. It's just pain happening, immense pain.
yeah, and we may not like that pain, but that's what's happening, and that's. But I guess adding a lot of storytelling or narrative to that pain probably makes it worse, or it could maybe make it even feel worse, maybe.
Yeah, when there's lots of mental rejection or mental trying to escape or avoid the pain, then stories start happening, seeking to avoid what's happening begin. And the mind gets caught up in trying to avoid and escape the pain or fix the pain. But this is a total collapsing of that seeking, and there's just pain, there's just the mind, there's just whatever there is happening, and there is no escaping this. It's the mind's dream of escaping, but actually there's no escaping. That's the illusion that mind produces of a future projection of time, of a better future, a better moment, a better happening than what's currently happening. But it's impossible. It's impossible.
And it's full as it already is. So that's the irony, right? Because it's like whatever we seek in life, we already are. We are already complete and full.
Yeah.
So it's like, why do we think we can find it in some form?
Yeah, I don't think it's an intellectual thing. It's like it's just part of what seems to have happened, and so there's this seeking that starts, and no one's doing that seeking. It's just a part of what seems to happen when this contraction takes place. Then naturally, there's a seeking to end this sense of limitation. I am a limitation, which isn't true. So there's a natural seeking that begins. The mind starts to try and fix and solve that problem. It becomes a bodily experience of being separate and of trying to seek to find resolution in time. So the way that I would describe it is an unraveling, an undoing of this energetic thing that's happened in humans. And this body isn't finished with undoing. It's still undoing. It's still undoing. It's an endless undoing, really. But what has changed is this. What has changed is that, like, it's just happening. it's just happening, and it's not personal anymore. It's not about it happening for me to get somewhere in time. I'm going to get somewhere in the future. This is it. Life happening is happening now, and this is it. What I've been looking for and seeking for energetically is here. It's this hands moving, these feelings, these thoughts, these reactions, it's right here. It's right here. And while you think you're a story in the mind, they're seeking. While you think you're a limited thought, an idea, a picture of a body, when that's you, then they're seeking. The story of seeking is running. But when there's this collapse into this moment, a collapsing into what's currently happening, then there's just everything here. What you long for is here, appearing as everything.
Yeah, so it's like resting in yourself, basically. Although you can't really rest in yourself because you are already resting in yourself.
Yeah, but it does feel like a resting. Yeah, but no one's resting, but there's a resting.
So who we really are is that well, love, God, or I mean, you could say I am God, and it's like, wow, really? But it's basically, yeah, there's nothing out there that we are. It's all right here, and as everything.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say I am love or I am God. I wouldn't say that at all. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is. Like it's, I don't know what it. I couldn't say what I am. I couldn't say what I am. I couldn't give it a quality or a label or anything really.
Yeah, it's nameless.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you put a word onto it, it's almost like it becomes limited again, right? Then it becomes something.
And it can't. Yeah, and it can't be a thing. It can't be a word or a label or a concept or an idea. It's beyond all of that. Beyond all limitation or form.
And yet, it's also that, right? It's like almost empty, right? Yeah. It's not that it's less than that. And I want to be. I just want to be the formless, and I just. No, it's we are appearing as that. I mean, it's one and the same, right? That's the thing, right? I mean,
yeah.
Like the whole thing is because you can be like, well, I'm this, human, and I'm not really it. But no, it's it. Everything that appears is it, right?
Yeah, and it's like you can't land on any one position. You can't be empty and you can't just be full. You can't pick one over the other. They're both inseparable, the yin and the yang. You can't separate them out as two separate things. And this, I think, is part of the awakening, to see that you are nothing and that you are everything simultaneously. That's what I would call the integration of seeing that you aren't and you are. Like it's but it really is ungettable by the mind. The mind can't grasp that. The mind's in duality, in this or that. It can't grasp beyond duality. And that's okay, because this isn't about the mind grasping. It's beyond the mind, the limitations of thinking and the intellect and understanding. It's beyond that. That's a movement in this, the mind, and it's working out and it's grasping. It's beyond that. And that's what's so beautiful about this. It's beyond the mind, beyond thought, beyond form.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. That's
Thank you.
So you have a website and where you can go buy your books, or you have some events. What's your website, and do you have any ongoing events or any events that are coming up in this year? February, March, April. What do you have anything?
Yeah, unfortunately, I would like to do more talks and do retreats and things, but at the moment, obviously, with the current situation that's going on, that's impossible. But I do weekly free streams on YouTube, where you can ask questions and I can answer them during the stream. I also do private one-to-ones with people if they want to come and discuss non-duality more and hear more about it, or ask or express things about whatever they're experiencing. They can do that. And I also do a monthly Zoom meeting as well, a very small monthly Zoom meeting. So yeah, it's on RebekahMaroon.com if you want to know more about that. So you can find it all up there.
Yeah, RebekahMaroon.com. Okay, great. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Rebekah. I really appreciate it. Thank you. It was wonderful.
Thank you for inviting me as well. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thanks.